This is For the Hawkra, a Seattle Seahawks podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm Brandon Schultz, and today I am joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner. Clinton, how you doing?
Great, Brandon, great. Getting late on the East Coast. And you know what, Brandon? I don't care. You want to know why, Brandon? Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because we're talking Seahawks. That's why. So I could stay up. I could stay up all night talking Seahawks. I really could. I might need a little bit of coffee.
Let's test it out.
Yeah,
we'll see how long we can drag this show out.
Like Kramer with the full tank, with the empty tank of gas, right? With the test drive.
see how far this goes. That's a dated reference, but hey, you'll be in store for many dated references if we take this all the way.
Look, if people are not cultured, that's not my fault. So they should get more cultured. That's all.
I was trying to get a little more cultured this week and having discussions with a variety of different people. And one topic, because people know that I'm a Seahawks fan, Clinton, and so I get a lot of Seahawks fan questions.
Yeah.
And if just one person would have come up to me and said, "Hey, I hear the Seahawks are shopping DK Metcalf," and if I would have just gotten that once, I would have been like, okay, maybe some weird rumor is out there. And think nothing of it. It's one person. But then another person hit me up just today and said, "Hey, what's going on with the Seahawks and DK Metcalf? Why would they trade that guy?" And I'm thinking, why indeed? This is a silly rumor and it needs to stop. And not only that, I need to figure out where the heck this is coming from, Clinton, because it was one thing. There was Tyler Lockett. He went through all this business. And then now it's DK. I felt like after the draft, this would have stopped, but this seems to have cropped up since the draft.
Yeah, well, Tyler Lockett, according to many reports, was traded to the Chiefs right before the draft, I think, for their second pick, the 64th overall. So love Tyler as a Seahawk, and I guess he'll do really, really big things as a Chief. And now it's the DK season. It is a little ridiculous. But you did some sleuthing to throw some other old references out there. The Columbo, the Matlock. I don't know what Murder She Wrote. I don't know what her name was per se. I just know that she was solving stuff and that she did the typewriter thing, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So, but you did some sleuthing to figure out who started this BS rumor. And as Adam would say, you're gonna have to help me out here, but it's like once is a what, twice is a coincidence. What's the first one? Once is a
trend.
Once is okay. Once the trend. No, twice the trend, right?
So, once is a coincidence. Yeah.
Okay, so coincidence. Somebody says, "Hey, what's up with DK?" Twice is a trend, and I know 3 times he says is a you problem. So, and we've got plenty of people out on Twitter or X throwing fuel on this DK to the Steelers fire. And Brandon, we're here to just first of all dismiss it, talk a little bit about DK as a Seahawk, why this is really dumb, and that this is simply probably just some late May fodder that we have to trudge through.
Yeah. Also, Tyler Lockett's still very much on the Seahawks. So while we're taking down one rumor, we should probably go back and recorrect your joke just so people don't get confused.
Gotcha. Yeah, because they're gonna blast like, well, these guys don't know ball. That's what they'd say. They don't
trade Tyler Lockett to the Chiefs. What are these guys doing?
And if they did, would it be the second rounder or the 32nd overall? These guys don't know ball. Yes, we know.
And so yes, because I challenged one person on it, and I said, I believe that to be fake news that you're saying that about the Steelers and DK Metcalf. And he's like, no, man, look it up. And so I did. I looked it up, and this was the most recent article that I came across titled "Patience Would Pay Off If the Steelers Trade for Wide Receiver DK Metcalf" by Kirk Popejoy on the Yahoo Sports website. And I know it's not coming from Kurt. So I had, like you said, I had to do a little bit of sleuthing. And so you always go to, where is it according to? And this says, according to NFL reporter Benjamin Albright, the Steelers have inquired about the availability of Seattle Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf. So,
wow.
Yeah. With regards to this, Clinton,
yes.
If I were to come to you and inquire about the availability of whatever vehicle you're driving right now,
Mhm.
are we in negotiations for said vehicle, or am I
Um,
am I just calling about availability?
to me, it feels like you're calling about availability. I'm driving a 2024 Chevy Trax,
Oh,
totally redone. Actually, it's a lovely little vehicle. Happy I got it. If you had called me and said, "Hey, I'll pay you double the money you paid for that Chevy Trax," maybe then we'd be in a negotiation. But no, if you're just calling saying, "Hey, what do you drive nowadays?" No, I don't believe we'd be in negotiations quite yet there, Brandon.
I'll give you 20K. Are are we in negotiations now?
No, we are not. We are not relations. We are not negotiating quite yet.
All right. So I followed it back a little bit earlier too to see where that part of it came from. Where did Benjamin Albright talk about DK Metcalf and this call between the
Mhm,
Seahawks and Steelers? So you have to go. This is not even the initial post. The initial post is way up here, where he is replying to some other person about calling him out for cryptic tweets. You got to scroll down within this conversation, and he says, "I know the Steelers have been calling around to half a dozen teams, and they've been rejected by two teams." He then calls out Ayuk and Sutton as calls that have been rebuffed with opening talks. So much like you rebuffed me with my 20K offer, they they were immediately rebuffed and called about DK and says, "I don't believe a trade would get done there until after June 1st, if
mhm.
one got done at all." So this is April 30th. This article in Yahoo Sports, May 26th, almost a month later, and Steelers fans are still wondering. And it's not just Steelers fans either. It's Arrowhead Report. Could Kansas City Chiefs trade for Seahawks star DK Metcalf? They already have Tyler Lockett. They already traded for one of our. Why do they need two, Clinton?
Yes, why stop there, right? Chiefs fans, Chiefs faithful. It's so Reverend back to Reverend Popejoy over there with the Steelers. Now what was the reason that Albright first stated like there's look, the dude's doing he's hearing some stuff. There's some smoke. It is the down part of the year,
Oh, yeah.
doldrums.
I
What did he
absolutely buy the fact, Clinton, that the
right,
Steelers
that
are calling to inquire about wide receivers at other
makes total
teams. Like
sense.
that sounds like legitimate reporting because
Yeah,
that's something that the Steelers, hey, they need wide receivers. It makes sense that they would call and ask teams, "Hey, is anybody available?"
correct. And I think they feel like they're in a bit of a win now potential scenario back with Russ under helm, maybe Justin Fields, but probably Russ, and a pretty good defense, with definitely with some studs on defense, different parts of the field there. Yeah, so I get that. I get their desire. I don't think it's going to be matched by Seahawks' desire to go really too far with this. But what was the June 1st part? What was more beneficial? What's the patience all about in the title from Pope Joy?
Right. I think that goes to the idea that the Seahawks would take a huge salary cap hit if they were to trade DK Metcalf right
Yeah,
now.
huh? Okay.
To the point that it wouldn't make any contractual sense for them because it it would make more sense to go after June 1st because then you can spread out the cap hit and it actually would create then cap space for the Seahawks. So the idea is that, well, the Seahawks are kind of close to the salary cap. If they were to move DK Metcalf, they'd have all this cap space to go into the 2024 season. Hooray for cap space. We would have space, Clinton,
Right, right.
under the cap to be able to do things like sign. I don't know who else is left to sign going into the regular season. I guess people who get cut going
Yeah.
through preseason.
So who else in the NFL will be available, let's say, August 15th, who plays X in the NFL, a true X in the NFL, who through 5 years has put up pretty much just really solid year after year numbers at wide receiver, in spite of lots of fluctuations and changes at QB. Is there another player out there, Brandon, that can play X for us going into the year on our roster, or that you think might get cut?
Oh, on our roster who might get cut, who are currently available as free agents. I mean, what, like Antonio Brown? Would we go out and get him maybe?
No,
What are we talking about
no,
here?
no. I was at the Antonio Brown undress rehearsal game. I was sitting a few rows next to the Jets uh, end zone there when he decided to derobe and dance off into the sunset. So no, I'm going to take a hard pass on Antonio Brown. No, thank you. We have Derek Young on our team. We have Jake Bobo on our team on our current roster. Do we think those dudes could really replace DK in as a true NFL X, Brandon?
I don't think that those are replacements, and I just would. That's the big question of why would the Seahawks going into the 2024 season trade their best receiver? It doesn't. Are they in position? Are they out of it? Do they believe themselves to be out of it already, that it's time to
Yeah.
start making moves?
And I think it's also their most irreplaceable wide receiver because he is their true X. There's not that many in the NFL to go around to begin with. And in our system, he is that. I've said before, and this is not, oh my gosh, he's going out and saying we should trade Lockett. No, we already traded Lockett to the Chiefs. We've been over this. But if we were to trade one of them, in my opinion, Lockett would make a lot more sense. And that's because we have JSN waiting in the wings. You bring him up in year two, you maximize his potential, maximize his touches when he's on a rookie contract. You can get 5 years out of him on a rookie contract. If they give him the fifth year, they likely will. Now, with that said, we didn't trade Tyler Lockett either. And I get the feeling that Grubb is going to want to try to replicate a little bit of that UW magic, having three really solid wide receivers, figure out what they're going to do with the move tight end. Hey, Westover's on this roster. He might play some halfback and do some interesting things as well. And just have, I think, every weapon available to him, which would be kind of cool. So I understand what time of year it is. I get it. I just don't see a scenario where it makes what are they going to give us? Like, okay, well, you're going to throw a linebacker our way because we were short on linebackers. You're going to throw 2025 picks our way, but we have a huge deficit at an incredibly important position a few months before the season starts with a brand new
You
offensive coordinator.
line that first round pick up at X, and you throw to that spot until that person gets drafted in
Until they get
2025.
drafted. Yeah. Whether you take a wide receiver or not, it mattered not. You just line that pick up and you truly trust the process. I think
I
that's
think
it.
you should put that pick in the slot though, because I think you get a little bit better matchup moving that pick inside than you do lining it up outside.
I like that you mentioned the slot. And when getting a little bit back to reality and what we can expect this year, Grubb uses the slot a lot, and that's not to rhyme, but he does. And it's not traditionally very often like, oh, it's the slot guy. No, he moves dudes in and out of the slot, and then they don't not typically, but they don't often or always stay in slot land, if you will. So he lines them up in slot. The ball goes to the dude who's in the slot a lot, but it doesn't mean they are the slot receiver. He does a lot of rotation there. So I'm actually really excited. One thing we've been talking about for a couple of years, man, is look, there's been a couple of times in DK's career where he's been used over the middle. And then I'd say even last year, there was a good stretch there where DK was becoming the third down machine over the middle a lot last year and was starting to really show out. But there was a big gap where we're like a year and a half or so where it's like, nope, we're just going to throw down the sidelines of DK. That's all we're doing is just outside the numbers. I'm really excited, Brandon, to see if Grubb, and I think he will, truly rotates who takes the slot when. And then if maybe it's JSM, maybe it's Tyler, I'm sure they will get their share. But then you also weave DK in and he gets significant snaps out of the slot and he's doing new things. That would be really, really kind of a cool next evolution to a dude. And I think could unlock him a bit further too. So this is going to be a much different offense. And I know there's some consternation and some worry about like, is it going to be rinky dink? Is it going to be too much college? Will it work in the NFL? I don't know. I don't really have true answers there yet or a real foundation. I just think we're going to put new types of pressure on defenses that we haven't seen in probably, maybe going back to maybe like the mid 2010s when we were still like a really crisp offense, like 2015 style offense. So anyway, just thinking
I
through
don't know
that.
if we will, but that's what I want also. I want to see that. I want us to use DK Metcalf, and gosh, it's not like he's not being used either.
Right.
He's been 100+ targets ever since his rookie season. I mean, 100 targets, very first season in a Seahawks uniform, and then consistently 120, 130 average over the next 4 seasons. So he's being used, but it doesn't feel like he's being featured in that same type of sense that you see like the Rams using Cooper Kupp, or as much as they used Puka Nacua last season, or it just doesn't seem like he gets that featured type treatment that would put him kind of at the level that he is now to that next kind of elite group of receivers.
Well, we've talked about this before, that McVay doesn't spread the ball around. He kind of does the opposite. Like if he's got his two guys, maybe a third receiver, he kind of just features them. And he does that with, last year was Kyron Williams too. And he did it with Gurley earlier in McVay's tenure. If he has dudes that he thinks are the best players, he features them. And we also talked about, well, that's exactly what Grubb did in Washington, where it's like, okay, I can't project his UW offense into the NFL. He's got to change it. What he seems to be very good at is understanding when he has mismatches and exploiting the crap out of those mismatches. To me, that's very McVayian. It's like, okay, you can't stop Puka. Puka's getting 18 touches today. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can't stop
Belichick
it.
did that too, and that's
Yes.
it seems to be the mark of a great coach, is that they find those mismatches and they go to them and they don't go away from them.
Right. In the opposite of, we talked about Waldron and some of his woes, was like almost this always desire to get back to the sheet. I got to get back to the sheet. I got to stay on whatever plan I had that I pre-baked a week ago or 10 days ago because we had a mini bye week. It's like, dude, I get that. And we talked about his inability or non-desire, it seems sometimes, to ride the hot hand. And I don't think that's going to be Grubb's problem, because that seems to me has been his MO. It's like, oh, they found the weakness, they're going to pick on that. DK gives you lots of opportunities to find and exploit weaknesses. So I'm very, very excited for what that can bring this year. I just think it's going to be different. I think also, I don't think we'll go through. There's been so many times as Seahawks fans over the last, whatever it might be, decade plus, where we seemingly don't want to put teams away. And then people call Pete Ball, whatever. Let's get to the fourth quarter, all that jazz. But Pete wasn't the offensive coordinator any of those years. I don't think that's going to be the thing either. I think if we have folks on the ropes, and if it's on the ropes early, I don't care. It could be 2 minutes to go in the first quarter. You're up 10-0 with the ball. Okay, we'll go make it 17-0. Like it's not time to tuck it and run just yet.
I don't know. That's something that I'll have to wait and see, because with a defensive coach, it's very much a defensive mindset, is for the offense to play it safe and let the defense try and create some of those turnovers, that then the defense is the one that really gets to pile on and put it away. And hey, if you can run the ball and hammer it home and run out the clock and still put up points, then great. That helps close it out too. But I don't know with head coach Mike Macdonald if he's going to be that same type of to have that mindset of going for it offensively, even when you have that opportunity to put the foot on the gas. I don't know if I'd be ready to put a bet on that.
Well, we shall see how the Grubb McDonald life evolves with each other. One thing, and look, I am a big believer in running the football. All of us on this podcast, that we believe in running the football. And hey, you get to late third quarter, you get into the fourth quarter, and you're moving people. Yeah, just keep feeding the rock, run the friggin' ball, bleed the clock, do those things.
There's
All
two
about it.
things I believe in. I believe in running the football, and I believe to subscribing to the shows that you
Oh
listen
yeah.
to. So
Oh, that's
if
nice. Yeah.
you're new to For the Hawkra, hit the subscribe button. You can go and find it out on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. So you can look for it wherever you listen to podcasts, but be sure and hit the subscribe button. And then, hey, if you want to check us out on video, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast, you can get For the Hawkra. You can get all the shows that we do on the Seahawkers podcast. It's a great way to watch everything on video in one spot. So just subscribe to all the spots.
Yeah. I mean, just you subscribe, like, hit all the buttons. It's easy nowadays, right? So we talk about this previously, man. Like, yeah, man, I grew up when we're of the same age. Our jokes probably indicated that earlier where we fall in. But I grew up in Long Island. I grew up in New York. There was no coverage, nothing. It was so big. You couldn't find anything. I would wait and wait and wait for 2 minutes of coverage on NFL primetime, to find out that I knew the score, but to watch a highlight that Seattle lost 21-9 to the Broncos, like, and that was it, Brandon.
But you
That was
wanted
it.
to see Chris Warren run that touchdown into the end zone.
Always. I sure did, because I like how you took it. The 9 was still a touchdown, and then we missed an extra point, because that's more. That's
yeah,
more,
and then we kicked a field goal with John Casey, probably. So yeah, it's
yeah.
that's how we got to the 9.
I love it. I love the mathematics there. But this is a different era. So you hit the subscribe, you hit the likes, and I love being on Believe too. One thing that I don't think we talked about last time, which is a good little tease too, Brandon, is that we brought the show over to Believe because we do get a chance to do a lot more of collaboration shows. Other folks that are on the network that are either fans and do podcasts for our rivals, or just some other just NFL folks who really know their stuff. So are you circling any particular names out there quite yet that you're thinking about from the Believe network, or you're still getting the pencil sharpened?
Oh, it's an easy call to make, just because I know that I mean, gosh, when we had interviews in the past, it was folks from the Believe Network coming on the show. So yeah, whether it's Ed Smith from the Cardinals podcast on the Believe Network, he was always one of my favorite guys to talk rival, the Cardinals rivalry with, and a former NFL player. Or gosh, I think we had Eric Davis on the show, and I got to ask him about Jerry Rice as a Seahawks legend. He didn't like that one very much, but always good chats with all of the other folks who are on the network with us.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that they do have they've done a good job. And I say they Believe has done a good job of compiling seems like ex NFLers, ex ballers have kind of been attracted to this platform, which fits right in for us, Brandon, because you and I mean, we are in game shape. I tell you what.
We can go out there and at least run a 40 in something.
In something. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it'd be 21 miles an hour fast like Geno, but maybe reverse that. I bet I could hit 12.
Real quick on Geno, since you brought him up. And yeah, I think I could hit 12 miles per hour too. I was listening to the Jim Rome show, and how I stumbled across it, which was kind of interesting. I was just on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. And I noticed that Jim Rome had a new show exclusively streaming on X. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then it was like, oh, we had Geno Smith on today. I was like, oh, doubly interesting and cool. So I tuned into it. At least I just scrolled. Right now, by the way, the scrolling feature of like how you find timelines on the X app or Twitter app, that needs a little work. But regardless, still cool that
UI
it's there.
tips from Clinton
Yeah.
Bonner.
Thank you. Well, that's part of my life. What can I say? And but I found the Geno part, and it's about 8 minutes for the folks that don't want to go find it, listen to the whole thing. A lot of it's rah Jim Rome type stuff, Brandon. It's like, oh, I love your energy. I love they wrote me off going through the quote and all that. And he's asking about the team and what's new this year. Most of it's like, oh, I love Mike. Coach Mike's great. Yada yada yada. Just typical QB speak. And then Brandon, Rome asks about Grubb. And did you hear what he said about Grubb and the playbook?
I did not, but I bet I bet you came away with a nice little nugget from this.
Of the 8 minutes, I mean, you did the homework to find out about, the what we've talked about earlier, right? With the Steelers nonsense. This was me doing a little homework for y'all out here to raise the Hawkra. This was, he goes, okay. He goes, look, you're entering year 12. Rome says to Geno, he goes, you're entering year 12, and I bet at this point you've kind of seen it all. You've been in all sorts of different systems, even dating back to West Virginia. Then, of course, the Jets, Chargers, Seahawks, Giants. Like, you've been in all these different systems. I bet you've seen it all at this point. And Geno goes, actually, he goes, Coach Grubb is bringing some brand new plays that I've never seen before in my life. And then he just says, look, they're not ready for prime time yet. We're going to have to hold them back a little bit. But he reiterates, it's like, yeah, but there are some new things he's doing that he's like, it's going to be something when we get to show it off. So I know, to sift through that, to get that one little nugget, Brandon, what does it do for you?
I'm trying to rack my brain to think what could be done that has never been seen by Geno Smith before, having played in the Jets offense, the Giants offense, down in San Diego, then with Pete Carroll under multiple offensive coordinators. What is new that would excite Geno Smith? And I guess I have a hard time figuring out what that might be, but it excites me. It's something to get hyped up about until the start of the season, Clinton.
We could ponder, right? I do wonder. I don't think he would say that answer if it was like pure trickery. I don't think he'd be like, oh yeah, we got this one tree, this Statue of Liberty 3.0, and wait till you see this. I don't think Geno would answer that way. I think he's genuinely seeing some, mixed new concepts that in his 12 plus years and then all the time in football, he just hasn't seen it laid out that way, which is interesting. Like you're saying, it's like, how many different ways can you run 3 or 4 receivers out there, or 2 receivers and 2 tight ends, right? It's so,
well, that's one of the things that bothers me because I hear a lot of people say, oh, this is such and such coach is so inventive and innovative. And it's like, well, what are they doing? Are they like Chip Kelly was supposed to be so innovative, and when he came into the NFL, and that was just, he was calling plays a little bit faster so they could, call more plays, and that didn't work out too well. So I'm a little hesitant, but I try to stay excited.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chip Kelly, right? He used the middle of the field and really fired, just really, like you said, rifle through plays real quickly. And when they don't work, you're punting real fast, which is also known as the Kingsbury, right? That's all he did, and hence he's gone. He's back somewhere now, right? Where is he? He's an
in Washington.
Either way, I think he's an OC again. It's like, did you guys watch any of that? Anyway, terrible offense that he tried to run. Yeah, but I would say Waldron last year for me, with some of the things with the 12 and 13 personnel, I thought that was pretty inventive, and I didn't really like a lot of what Waldron was doing. But to give a hat tip, it was a new way to use some 3 tight end sets that I hadn't seen a lot of. I don't know if it was
inventive though. I think people have done it before.
Yeah, right.
But it was new to us.
Maybe featuring it a bit more and just getting it more prominent, maybe more it just worked more often, right? For some splash plays. But you're right. We probably throw the term innovative around probably a little too much as a society in general.
It's possible, but it's more fun this way. It's like throwing around DK Metcalf as a trade candidate. We'll get that all throughout the offseason. And you know us. We just can't get enough of it, and it'll all be thanks to Benjamin Albright. You can trace it all the way back there.
Yeah, you could take that one to the bank, Brandon, for sure.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.